Hello, I'm Gail Dunham. I'm the Executive Director for the National Air Disaster Foundation. We were incorporated by air crash survivors and family members 27 years ago. So we've, in our mission, we're true to our founding goals: aviation safety, security, survivability, and support for victims' families. Through the years, we have represented family members from over 100 aviation disasters. But this week in Washington, D.C., April 2022, we had a very unique meeting where we focused on 3 plane disasters that had all been shoot-downs by the Russians. Korean 007, that will be 40 years ago next year, and Malaysia 17, which was 7 years ago, was also shot down by the Russians, and Smolensk, a most unusual situation, which was shot down by the Russians 12 years ago. It's a special time now because they have a final report. It took a long time, and a lot of people put a lot of work and professional expertise into it. But they do have a final report about Smolensk. So we had quite a bit to talk about this week.
Yes, on behalf of the Polish families, I would like to thank you for organizing this press conference and for inviting the Polish delegation representing the families of the Smolensk disaster. Today we can already say that it was not a disaster, it was a state-sponsored terrorist attack. And that's why this conference was very important for the Smolensk case. And we did have representatives of the families coming from Poland and from the United States. And the opportunity to meet the families from other similar tragedies was very, very important for all of us. So on behalf of the Polish families, thank you very much.
It's very important that we have the international community. We need the international community to come together to recognize that aviation disasters or actually murder, it was a murder attack, to have the international community come together and do a better job with pursuing justice for these crimes, and as rare as it might be for any of the aviation terrorist attacks. But these three were unique, and I'm glad that we were able to talk together. We had some wonderful conversations. Smolensk has been in my heart ever since I met Marie many years ago. And I remember the first video that came out from the plane crash, and immediately there were questions. It was overwhelming. But you've spent 12 years with the research. It's tremendous and at risk maybe to yourselves too. But you had strong feelings about it. But I've always had very strong feelings. One of the things that you were able to share in this unique situation was we always do the reading of the names, and you had presented the names with the photos. And they were according to whether it was the president of Poland, the military generals, all the clergy, just the different, or those that were, their families had been victims of the Katyn disaster. It was an unbelievable, just amazing group of passengers, but you presented it so well. It was so personal to know that we were there to try and honor them, and that's the goal going forward too.
Yes, it was a very special group of people for Poland, so that underlines the significance of this terrorist attack. And when we say that those were 3 unique crashes or events, in fact, what was striking to me was that each investigation of those 3 incidents had to face Russian lies and manipulations. And this is so unthinkable for the Western civilization, that we are all uncomfortable seeing and witnessing the lies and manipulations to the degree that the Russians are doing it. So we are on our own facing this a huge challenge. But when we listened to one group, to the second, and to the third, and each group had the same challenges of fraud, basically, and brutal manipulation of evidence and desecration of the bodies, it develops the pattern of operation that Russia acts that way. It has been acting for a long time, and it repeats itself time and time again. So that was very striking yesterday to see that it's not only our challenge, but it is the challenge of the previous two incidents or accidents as well.
And we're talking about 663 victims between the three crashes, representing 32 countries.
Right, exactly.
No matter what religion, what your culture is in the world.
Right.
I think every culture, every religion has a common need when you lose a loved one, when a loved one dies, to be able to put them to rest.
Right.
We have lots of customs about how we put them to rest. And all of you were denied that.
Exactly.
And it wasn't something that was just one day. It was something that was ongoing.
Yeah.
And that you were denied being able to put your family members to rest. So today we try to honor them the best that we can. And we need our international community, we need the international government agencies to come together to recognize that we have to do everything we can to prevent an international disaster. And with the war with Russia, he's threatening, unfortunately Putin is threatening to do more harm to more people. We've got, the world has to be stronger against this.
Yeah.
I think the world could defeat that evil.
Yes, absolutely. Like
the
you
more
said,
we come together.
33 countries are directly impacted by this brutal, barbaric way of operation. So we need to build awareness that that's how Russia does their business, and we need to put international pressure on Russia, and so that they don't get away with it anymore.
It's 32 countries. Any country who had a citizen murdered by Russia in one of these three disasters still has a responsibility to that family member too.
Absolutely.
And the words that we're using are strong, but I can't think of any other way. Now, so many of the facts have come out. The evidence is overwhelming.
It's in plain light.
Yeah, well, with the National Air Disaster Foundation, we always say every disaster is preventable.
Right.
And we'd like to prevent them in the future, too. That's always our mission, to prevent future harm, to try.
That's why we need to get to the bottom of those cases, to reveal the full truth, and to serve justice for those crimes.
Family members have a tremendous voice. You become. It was wonderful yesterday that the president of the National Air Disaster Alliance, Matt Zimkowitz, was able to come in too.
Yes.
And he remembers, family members become experts.
Exactly.
In a good way. In a good way, because all we want is the truth.
Yes.
I never met a family member that said, "Oh, the truth was so terrible, they should have withheld it from me." Absolutely not. Family members want the truth. They want to, and closure is an insurance company word. It doesn't belong with the family members. And we find it's that life gets different. But the more that we have, if we know that these types of disasters are going to be more effort to prevent them in the future, that's reassuring too.
Yes, so on behalf of the families of the victims of the Smolensk tragedy, we thank you very much that you were so kind and so determined to put together this conference and include our voice in this event.
Well, I had met some of the family members in Brussels. Yes, where Smolensk was heard there. And I just have you're all in my heart. You have a very strong group, and the only thing, what you're fighting for is to make the world a better place.
Yes, exactly. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
that, for your effort.